Hypnotic Hiker presents Hypnotic Trip, a virtual mind trip experience, a series of guided journeys that take you back to your true self. In these episodes, you'll discover the power of your subconscious mind and how to easily change any old outdated programs from birth that have kept you stuck. You'll enjoy some virtual hikes, plus I'll share the divine interventions that I've encountered on my hikes and how I put those into my spiritual practice. You'll learn walking meditation and self-hypnosis. By the way, I've been a clinical hypnotist in Dallas since 2002. In addition, we'll explore the importance of staying connected to that wild child within you and in touch with your primitive instincts. We'll talk about how the modern world has tried to change us into the cogs of a machine. I'll dive into mass hypnosis and the concept of transhumanism. We will even explore regenerative ranching and agriculture via a virtual tour of my homestead. But the most important discovery you'll have is how to lose that shadow self and to love yourself again, to stand on your own 2 feet and think from your heart mind and speak with your true voice. You'll gain the freedom to be your absolute best self. I'm Valerie, the Hypnotic Hiker. So are you ready for a new relationship with you? We can do that, and it begins in nature. Come along with me now. Hey, welcome to the first episode of Hypnotic Trip. I'm Valerie, the Hypnotic Hiker. Well, this is how it all began without me really realizing it was beginning. I know you've probably had a similar experience. So when I started hiking, it was for exercise. Now it's for my soul. Kind of like how the shower is for your body, whereas a soak in the tub is for your soul. Nature, outside, is where you can reset your compass and find a new direction. Your true direction, or maybe you could refer to it as your true north. It is where you can release the past and stand on the new path to your future. It is where you gain insights or find a solution to a problem, or maybe face a difficulty with courage. It's a place where you can just be, which is nature's philosophy. You can become inspired, feel empowered, and really ready to start liking yourself again, maybe even loving yourself. Did you know hypnosis is a lot like hiking, and hiking is a lot like hypnosis? What I mean is, you decide you're going to do it, hypnosis or hiking. But in this case, let's say hiking. So you decide you're going to go for a hike. You start walking. And before long, a lot of time has passed, and you realize you are no longer thinking of worries and concerns. You're in creative problem-solving mode, so that you come off the trail with many solutions that may even be playing out unconsciously. So when you have a problem or a difficulty, you say to yourself that you want to find the solution by the end of your hike. You start off on the trail and then you let it go. It may come to you on the hike itself, or maybe realized later, or even better, it may resolve itself seemingly on its own. The subconscious really did that. So I'm an active person, and sitting meditations are difficult. They're actually difficult. Who can raise their hand if they realize that sitting meditation is difficult? I began using my hiking time as a meditation time. And how I did this was by focusing only on each sense, one at a time. So let's practice this together. You can do it wherever you are now. You don't actually need to be outside, except if you're driving Please pause this until a later time. So to begin, you're going to narrow your focus and your attention to only on what you're seeing, so you get to have your eyes open. And so look around and notice the objects in the room or the objects outside. Pay attention to the details. Maybe pick one and really narrow in and focus on the details, the colors, the contrast, the shapes. Just notice what you're seeing. And let everything else fade away. And then when you're satisfied with that, begin to focus on what you're hearing. Maybe close your eyes and focus on the sounds. And really listen. When your eyes are closed and you're focused on the sounds, it's amazing how many sounds there really are. And then focus on the physical feeling. Notice your body. Eyes open or closed. Just take a moment to recognize and notice your physical body. The weight of it sitting there. How the clothing feels, maybe the fabric on your skin. Whether the temperature is cool or warm. And even bring your awareness to the sensation of your breath and just notice maybe a softness of the air flowing through your body. Or how when you breathe in through your nostrils, that breath feels cooler. And when you breathe out through the nostrils, you notice more warmth. And then moving from the physical feeling, notice an emotional feeling. Are you more light and happy, joyful? Are you feeling heavy? Or just kind of somewhere in the middle? So just notice, that's all. So practice this, and over time, it'll help you make your hikes or your walks more productive on the mental, emotional, and physical levels. So in 2019, I decided it was time for me to shift my perspective as a solo hiker. So after hundreds of miles, maybe even more, of Texas's 600-foot above sea level trails, I decided it was time to elevate my path. And so my friend Brian and I, who has had experience summiting some 14,000 footers, asked me to go up to Guadalupe Peak. It's kind of the first big step. It's only 8,700 feet roughly. But we did that, Guadalupe Peak in Texas, and then we attempted Red Cloud at 14,000. That's near Lake City, Colorado. I say attempted because a mudslide kind of spoiled that one. But we did hike up a few hours that day. Then we did Venado Peak in New Mexico. That's 12,734, and some kind of a landslide. It had been a while, but there were a lot of downed trees, so that made it difficult for us to summit that one. But we did spend about 6 hours on that mountain, and I feel like no matter what they say that I did climb that one for sure. And then in 2020, we traveled to Wyoming, South Dakota, and Colorado. To clarify, we are not rock climbing, we're on foot, staying grounded while we climb because it feels a lot more secure. And we're not doing any extreme climbs, but rather some 7,000 to 14,000 foot elevations. Very challenging mentally and physically, for sure. So in the South Dakota area, we did Black Elk's Peak. That one was the most memorable to me. First of all, South Dakota amazed me. I'd really love to live there. It was 3.3 miles to the peak, but it felt like 6. And on the way, the meadow that we came to was the first visual, although there were so many beautiful visuals, but that one just really stopped me. It was a real meadow. Bluebells, remember I'm from Texas, bluebells and raspberries, bergamot, and black-eyed Susan. They all seem to say, hello, we've been waiting patiently for you. Feel the peace of our intention. So from there, the elevation began to climb, and we hiked through a glitter field. Mica was all over the path. If you pick up a little piece of mica, just like a frail piece of shimmering plastic that falls apart in your hand and then blows away gracefully in the wind like glitter. It's very relaxing. And traveling past the mica field, we were cooled off by the ponderosa pine. Then there were the moss-covered dump truck-sized boulders. We climbed the steps higher and higher, those Corps of Engineer constructed paths, getting finally to the steps, up to the peak. Climbing those steps, the descenders were encouraging us by saying, "You're almost there." Right, I stopped believing that a long time ago. And then it seemed like we were just there, at 7,000 feet roughly. All around, and all we could see were other mountains and pine trees, and of course the sky. I fell to my knees. I literally did fall to my knees, and I felt a tear releasing at the majestic view. I felt like I was melting. But what was happening, I imagine, was the stress of the modern world releasing from my body. It's kind of like when you finish a project and you just melt into bed or on the couch. The climb took some of my breath away, but the view took the rest of it. It's a feeling like no other, to take in through all of your senses the natural world, the colors, the contrasts, the shadows, the shapes, the aroma, the coolness, the breeze, and the peace. As a clinical hypnotist since 2002, I realized up there at 7,000 feet that hypnosis and hiking and hypnosis, are both states of trance. I went up the mountain as a hypnotist and a hiker and came down the hypnotic hiker. It was really cool to get that connection, and so that's where this all began. I feel like I was divinely led. So now, how are hypnosis and hiking similar? So both create a sense of trance, a state of mind. And so when you're in trance, your subconscious mind is open and suggestible. Whether you're in my office, on the trail, or anytime you're focused on anything, reading a book, watching a movie, working on a craft, you're in trance. When you're watching TV, you are too, so be careful what you watch. And in that state of mind, great ideas are able to pour forth, kind of like getting those aha moments in the shower. And in nature, your eyes open, those mind's eyes and your actual eyes open to a new perspective. New perspectives and insights and the way things are paralleled, the connectedness of it all. For example, you might notice how a tree is growing. The conditions that it's endured cause it to grow at a slant, but it flourishes that way. Or maybe the way a boulder's placed, you get some insights, how wildlife moves around. I read a book about 7 years ago called The Spell of the Sensuous. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And it's all about how nature speaks to us. I think you'd really like it. Something else I noticed was how friendly and happy the other hikers were. This was 2020, that COVID year, although I think they called it the coronavirus then. Anyway, there were some with masks and many more without. There were obviously richer and then poorer individuals. There were some fatter ones and thinner ones. And in the city, most people see others as types. We naturally label. It's really hard not to. Dualistic thinking, right or wrong, good, bad, fat, thin, rich or poor, is something we learn at a very early age, and so it's hard to break out of it. Hypnosis probably can help, though. On the trails, however, all of us were a part of nature, like ants going up and down the hill. There was peace and compassion. People were polite and helpful. We were relating in a way that was so refreshing. Nature did that. We just stepped right into it. And I'm afraid that as soon as some of them got back in the cars, that magic stopped. But I'll teach you how to keep the magic. Just think how wonderful it will be to get outside, to improve your circulation, take in some nourishing sunshine, and step into a fresh perspective. But more importantly, find deep appreciation for the natural world, the rivers, the mountains, the rocks, the trees, the shrubs, the flowers, the animals, the insects, the spiders, and the lichen. To find connectedness and peace. I'm free. I'm free. If you're ready to get what's in your head transformed into something productive, positive, and purposeful, and have been unsuccessful so far, then a hypnotic trip might be a great alternative. I've climbed many mountains in my life, metaphorically and literally, and have hiked thousands of miles. And what I know is that when you're on a hike, you're in hypnosis, you're in a trance, and in that state of mind, you're poised to have powerful transformations. Are you ready to ascend to new heights? Or are you in search of something more out of life? Maybe looking for a new calling or purpose? Then come along with me on the next hypnotic trip.